Coming up, foundations are poured at the massive site of the future Monsters, Inc. door coaster. We take a look at the latest happening in the Muppets Courtyard and what's up over at Rock and Roller Coaster as Kermit and the gang prepare for their move across the park. All that and more on the way. This is Mickey Views News.
All who come to this happy place, welcome.
Now I'm the king of the swingers.
Our largest expansion ever. We're not just building one of these, we're building two.
First up today at Disney's Hollywood Studios, let's get up to date on what's happened to our dearly beloved Muppets Courtyard. I was there in the final days gathering all the footage I could of Muppet Vision 3D, which I will miss. I already do miss it. It was a great show. I grabbed some pressed pennies, tried some questionable food made by a chef rat at the land's counter service, and best of all, stayed late into the night getting some empty photos of the area on medium format Kodak film. I was really happy with how those turned out. Fans showed up in droves to bid their farewells in the final days, culminating in that packed last day for the land. Then the walls went up, and on the walls we discovered Disney had updated the concept art for what the land will soon become. And we made a video on what changed with the concept art. Replacing the Muppets will be a Monsters, Inc. themed land featuring updated restaurants, a new theater show, and most notably, a brand new Monsters, Inc. door factory roller coaster. Then the demolition crews got to work. First to go in late June were the land's trees and shrubs, outdoor seating, as well as Miss Piggy and the rest of the figures in the land's iconic fountain. Those were likely moved to storage somewhere. Hopefully we see them again someday soon. Meanwhile, in the cast member parking, walls went up at the future site of the Monsters, Inc. coaster. In July, the brick pavers were removed from the courtyard inside the existing land, and pathway demolition began outside the land's counter service. Backstage, cast member parking was removed, and the general footprint of the Monsters, Inc. coaster ride building became visible for the first time in the aerials. More pathway was dug up in the Muppets Courtyard, and in late July, the long underutilized Stage 1 company store building in the Muppets Courtyard was completely leveled. This was a cool moment in one respect, as for the first time, we got to see how the courtyard area will look when it becomes Monstropolis, at least in terms of its layout, where you're going to have a much more open space visually, and it actually looks quite nice. You'll be able to stand at the entrance to the land and clearly see all of the attractions in the land, everything it has to offer. You'll be able to see that all much better now that that gift shop is out of the way. Of course, though, these facades, they're going to be changing as part of the reimagined land. Cleanup on the demolished shop, as well as some more pathway demolition in August, soon left us with a cleared site at Muppets Courtyard. Behind Muppets, excavation work took place to install a new drainage system back there. The back gates of the Muppets Courtyard itself, those were removed as well, where in the future there's going to be new guest area and new guest pathway extending back there, leading to the door coaster. Excavation continued behind Muppets throughout September at the door coaster site, with the notable arrival of a foundation rig, which, as the name suggests, was there to get work started on drilling the holes for the piles that in the future will secure the building. In September, a mysterious circle was excavated at the former site of the Muppets fountain and marked off. Based on the art, we can draw that a new fountain will sit in the same spot when the new land opens. With all that progress in context, we can now take a look at the latest aerials BioReconstruct captured last week, giving us a great look at the current state of the project. Most notably, behind the Muppets Courtyard, out in the former cast member parking, the foundations are now being poured at the site of the Door Factory coaster as we speak. And what we're seeing here is a little more noteworthy than, oh, Disney poured some concrete, they're starting work on the slab. First of all, they've only poured one small section of the slab at the time of this aerial when this photo is taken, and those concrete pilings that you see in the other areas that are still dirt, that is not a sign of the coaster layout or anything else for that matter. Those concrete piles are part of the foundation. They get cut down to the proper level and then secure what looks to be, judging by that first piece, a totally plain slab. The reason this slab design is notable is because this is a different construction method than what we saw with Walt Disney World's last two coasters, Guardians of the Galaxy and Tron Light Cycle Run. During the previous major wave of investment at Walt Disney World in the second half of the 2010s, you may recall Disney did something pretty fancy with those two coasters when they were building them, where before they poured any concrete, they determined where every single mounting point needed to be for the coaster columns. They installed hundreds of anchor bolt cages, and then they cast all of that hardware into the slab itself by doing those Herculean overnight pours, where hundreds and hundreds of trucks of concrete were all sent in at once, all hands on deck, pouring the foundations over the course of a single night, at which point the locations for all of those coaster mounting points, they were literally set in stone. Walt Disney Imagineers highlighted in National Geographic's video on the transformation of Epcot that each of those mounts had to be correct within a 5mm tolerance, where if those mounts were off by more than that, and if you compound that with all the other ones, if they're a little bit off, when the coaster pieces were assembled, if that wasn't all lined up, it wouldn't fit together right. So needless to say, this was a very ambitious way of doing it, and getting back to the Monsters Inc. Door Factory coaster here, it looks like Disney is trying a different method with the coaster slab this time, where they are pouring it in smaller sections, and then it looks like they're going to be adding the mounts for all of the vertical pieces of the coaster afterwards. Whatever the case, the headline here is the foundations at the Monsters Inc. Door Factory coaster are going in as we speak. Shovels are most certainly in the ground at this point, as Parks Chairman Josh D'Amaro long promised us. Now concrete is in the ground as well. The building, it looks like it is going to be massive, and because we can't see the mounts just yet for the coaster columns, we don't have much of any visual clue in the aerials as far as the exact ride layout is concerned. That said, we do have some other hints towards what that is going to look like. Taking a look at the latest work happening nearby in the future Monstropolis itself, in the former Muppets Courtyard, utility work is continuing in the land. There's not a whole lot new to see from the aerials, but from inside the park, guests have been noticing gradual changes to the former Muppets Theater facade. The wait time signage was removed, then the Muppet Vision marquee signage was removed as well. Recently, the shutters of the faux windows that you had up there, those were removed from the facade, and now the window sills themselves are being demolished. So that's the status of the project right now from on site. Next up will be the completion of the slab backstage and the new coaster building going vertical, which will be very exciting. Also keep in mind there's more work that we can't see from the aerials or from the guest views. There's work that's going on inside the remaining Muppets buildings, with Disney filing permits for PCL construction to commence work inside Mama Melrose's, for example, which is slated to become the sushi restaurant from the original film, based on the most recent concept art we have for the land. Aside from the work happening on site, there's also the project development side of things, where there are some recent developments. Most notable of these, you've probably heard, we have an official name for this new Monsters Inc. land, which isn't Monsters Inc. land, it is Monstropolis. Disney first teased the name in a Disney Parks blog post back in March, but we weren't sure if that really meant anything or if that was just copy. Then on October 10th, Disney filed a trademark application for the name Monstropolis to be used in their theme parks. And sure enough, in the new Imagineering exhibit that is now on display inside Walt Disney Presents at Disney's Hollywood Studios, the Monsters Inc. display, the title there that you see in that area is indeed Monstropolis. So it looks like we have a logo here as well. So we've got the name, we've got the bird's eye view of the planned land, some early renders of what the courtyard will look like from guest level, renderings of the Door Factory facade, the layout of the Door Factory building itself, utility drawings, a render inside the load area, where after loading you will head up several stories into the air before whisking off into the experience. There's even more, like for example, there is a firm that Disney has tapped to create the animations of the Door Factory, which will be projected around you during the attraction. On their website, that firm, they've listed the attraction as one that they are providing animation services for. That firm is an independent computer graphics studio in Canada. Disney should build their own animation studio or acquire one and have them do the animation for their parks. It can all be like vertically integrated. Wait a second. Part of why I just reiterated everything that we know thus far, besides getting everyone up to speed, is there's one major experience in the land that we don't have much detail on, and that is what's replacing Muppet Vision 3D. Speculation based on art and hearsay is that it will have something to do with Mike Wazowski. It'll be Mike Wazowski-centric. All Disney's provided at this hour is that the theater will be home to a Monsters, Inc. themed theatrical experience. So is that a musical? Is that something more like over at Zootopia, at Disney's Animal Kingdom they recently did with the animatronic? Is it going to be something more interactive like the laugh floor? We don't know for sure just yet. And you know, it really does make you think about why they got rid of Muppet Vision 3D in the first place. It seems to be the result of that show gaining the label Walt Disney World president Jeff Volley threw out in his recent Orlando Magazine profile, an underutilized area, wanting to bring new life to an underutilized area. So it seems like that's what happened to Muppet Vision 3D. They believe that that show, that area, was underutilized. And park operations thinking this, they know better than us, tracking where all the guests are in the park, what they're doing, what they're not doing. They're probably right about that. And the reason they could be right about that, I think, is because ever since they added Galaxy's Edge, even back when they started work on it, the Muppets area started to see less foot traffic. And why is that? Are the Muppets old news? Does nobody like the Muppets anymore? Well, it seems to have a lot more to do with the fact that the area, it became a dead end in the park. You used to be able to walk through the Muppets area onto other attractions, back to Light Motors Action, but then once they put Galaxy's Edge over there, there was really nothing drawing people off to the side, the uninitiated guest off to the side, deep into this Muppets land. All that was in the very back was a restaurant that most people, they already knew about, you know, they had a reservation for, things like that, and then there was a gate going back to the cast member parking, right? There really wasn't a whole lot going on, drawing the uninitiated guest deep into the land. And now what we're looking at today is Disney pouring the foundations for exactly that. A major attendance draw, a major new attraction, an enormous new ride, the Monsters Door Factory coaster, going way behind the back of that land. So if the problem with Muppet Vision 3D was not enough attendance or not enough foot traffic in that area, well, adding the roller coaster will fix all of that almost for sure. Soon you'll have to walk past all of that stuff in the land to get to the hottest new ride when this Door Factory opens. So it makes me wonder, could they have kept the good show that a lot of people really, really liked and I think really captures the imagination and entertains the uninitiated guests who don't even know to expect it, kept that whole area, that well-themed Muppets area, perhaps gotten rid of the gift shop to open up the area so you can see everything inside of it, and then just added that Monsters, Inc. Door Factory coaster back there? Why did they not do that? Is this a Wizarding World contagion effect here, where there is now this impulse by Disney ever since the Wizarding World of Harry Potter to make everything a land once you're already putting a lot of money into something, and thus they've created a new challenge of now they have to create something new to somehow top Muppet Vision 3D in the Muppets Theater, and that's a high bar to reach. That'll prove challenging to meet. Of course, Jim Henson and many of the legendary Imagineers worked on that previous show. I just feel pre-Wizarding World Disney would have just added a Monsters, Inc. area past Muppets, because regardless, people are going to say, have you done the new Door Factory coaster yet? Have you ridden the new ride? That's what's going to draw people to Walt Disney World and to that park and to that area. Not, have you seen the new show at the Glob Theater next to the coaster yet? You have to plan a trip. You have to get on that. Go on Walt Disney World's site right now and spend $1 million. That is not what is going to be the draw. It is the coaster, whether you brand it as a new land or just a new attraction. A whole new group of visitors are headed to that park. They are going to be descending on that park regardless to check out Walt Disney World's newest coaster. And if you had kept the Muppets Courtyard, all the people headed there for the new Monsters, Inc. attraction, they would have found Muppet Vision 3D along the way, and I really think that you would have seen the attendance problem evaporate at that attraction. It would have also made the project cheaper or allocated more money, more resources towards making the coaster itself the best that it can be, more practical sets and things like that. It would have retained what's already working while bringing in way more attendance, while bringing in a new draw with the coaster that forces guests to pass everything that you have in the Muppets Courtyard area. Just a thought that I wanted to throw out there. It is definitely water under the bridge at this point, but definitely something that I think should be noted for the future, where not everything needs to be a land. So the Muppets created this underutilized area, right? Out with Muppets. They're not bringing in the crowds. In with Monsters, Inc., right? Well, actually, no, because despite all of this demolition, the Muppets are staying at Disney's Hollywood Studios, moving across the park and getting another attraction. Taking a look at where the Muppets are moving, Disney has announced their new attraction will be opening actually quite soon, summer 2026, where the Muppet Gang will be replacing Aerosmith as the stars of Rock and Roller Coaster on Sunset Boulevard. Disney says, quote, "Across town at G-Force Records, we're treated to a VIP tour of the legendary rock and roll recording studio. Things might look a little different around this Hollywood institution as the label has recently come under new management. The Muppets. For fans of that hilariously big guitar out front, you'll be stoked to know that the newest residents of Rock and Roller Coaster are putting their own spin on that ruby red paint job. A vibrant and psychedelic new design will grace the bottom of the guitar, inspired by a classic Muppet car paint job, and the piano motif at the base will feature a golden key as a nod to a certain far-out band leader. With your VIP passes, you'll be welcomed inside the recording studio where, wouldn't you know it, you'll find the Electric Mayhem are cranking out some seriously rocking tunes. Along with the finest audio engineers, all penguins of course, will see Scooter doing his best to convince Electric Mayhem to stop jamming and get to their increasingly restless fans. But will it be enough to get the band across town and on stage in time? With the help of our friends at Muppet Labs and a very fast limousine, we're taking a twisting, turning, and screamingly fun road trip across Hollywood to reach the concert in time. The iconic scenery and landmarks of Tinseltown will feature a Muppet twist when the attraction debuts in the summer of 2026. So that's the latest art and the details straight from Disney, giving us a look at the cosmetic updates that'll soon make their way to Rock and Roller Coaster, transforming it into Rock and Roller Coaster starring the Muppets. Despite the official summer 2026 debut for the updated attraction, the current version hasn't closed yet. The Aerosmith version Disney has just announced will have its final day of operation on March 1st, 2026. And very interesting is that despite the current attraction still running, the reimagining, the Muppets reimagining, has already begun. How can this be? Well, this past week, Disney permanently closed the Aerosmith pre-show with new temporary theming obscuring the windows into the pre-show itself. Disney says they closed the pre-show early so they can get started on what we just saw in that art with the new updated pre-show, while the existing attraction remains open, meaning the coaster itself can stay open a little longer, and thus overall we will see a shorter downtime. So if you're headed to Walt Disney World in early 2026, you'll get the last chance to ride the Aerosmith version of this coaster, which closes March 2nd, 2026, with March 1st, 2026 being the last day to catch this attraction before it heads out the door, and then the Muppets version will open next summer. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss future developments on Monstropolis, the Muppets update to Rock and Roller Coaster, and the litany of other projects getting underway across the Walt Disney World Resort as we speak. I hope you guys are getting ready for Christmas, winding down for the year. Personally, I still have some work to do getting caught up with the news at every park at Walt Disney World. We have videos up on the latest at the Magic Kingdom in Epcot, so be sure to check those out if you haven't already. And stay tuned because we have lots to get to over at Disney's Animal Kingdom, which is the rarest park to receive a dedicated Mickey Views news episode. So it'll be very cool to see what's going on over there, and there is a lot. If you enjoyed this video, you can find out how to support us over at mickeyviews.com/support. Thank you so much to everyone who has been so generous in helping out. Shout out to our patrons over on Patreon for helping make these videos possible. Thank you so much for watching. From the Mickey Views Magic Studio, this is Brayden. Have a magical day.